Hibbler's got shrapnel. File, JTAC's got shrapnel. My machine gunner, Aaron Maxon's biceps cut in half. I mean, it's getting a head count, running people up the mountain. You know, it kind of shows it in the movie documentary. And I realized I'm missing one, and realized it was Prince. You know, he was deceased. I don't think there was any suffering or anything like that. You know, that's sitting here talking about it, that's a very critical moment, because you're trying to balance emotion and you're trying to balance being a soldier and making sure we're still being proactive to get the hell out of here. And like, that's my buddy, you know. And
Today on Oklahoma Echoes, we sat down with Colt Floyd, an Oklahoma Army National Guard veteran who served with the legendary 45th Infantry Brigade combat team. His combat deployment to Afghanistan was marked by tragedy, loss, and a mission that would later be featured in the documentary Citizen Soldier. But Colt's story did not end on the battlefield. It is important to understand that some battles do not end when the deployment is over. For many veterans, the hardest fight begins after they come home. Like so many who have carried the weight of war, Colt returned home with invisible wounds. He turned to alcohol, found himself in trouble with the law, and eventually reached a point where something had to change. Through treatment, Veterans Court, and the courage to ask for help, Colt began to find his way forward. His story is an honest reminder that recovery is not weakness. It is another act of courage. For anyone fighting their own battles today, Colt's message is simple. There is light at the end of the tunnel. Hope you enjoyed today's episode, Light at the End of the Tunnel, the Colt Floyd story. Well, welcome to today's show. Again, in Ho Chi Town at the distillery here. Got to thank Blue, right, and the crew for setting us up. I really appreciate it. And did his interview yesterday, and now I'm here with Colt, and going to do his today. And down here in Broken Bow, America, right? It's a whole different country down here. It's been fun. Got some kids down. Colt's having a family reunion.
Yep.
And it's been good. If you haven't checked out Ho Chi Town Distillery, you definitely got to check it out. It's pretty cool. Like, again, I'm a beer guy, but let me tell you that stuff's pretty smooth. I've had a couple old fashions last night, and woo,
yeah,
they're good, aren't they?
Yeah.
But
It's coming
well,
back in
again,
bits and
I
pieces.
got an old buddy, Colt Floyd. Been a long time, right? Been trying to talk to him and get it, and so again, we're not in the studio, and came down here, and I got him on his vacation and snagged him up, and so Colt, I thank you, brother. I really do, and we've been talking the last couple days, and I really appreciate you doing this. And let's just start right at the beginning. Oklahoma Echoes, man. It's solidifying the story of the Oklahoma Warriors, right? And so, where are you from? Where were you born, raised? And tell me a little bit about your history.
Yeah, so born in Amarillo, Texas. I'm an 82 model, so 43 years young. I'm from Clarendon, Texas, which is about an hour south of Amarillo. Born and raised. Family had some family businesses, parts store, Parts Plus specifically. And population 2,000, small rural area, and graduated high school there, and then had an opportunity to play football in college at Southern Nazarene University, and went there for a year. Didn't like it so much. Transferred from there to Oklahoma Panhandle State out in Goodwell, and about that time, that's kind of when I really couldn't get settled in on a major, and talked to my granddad, just to get some advice, I guess. And he said, have you ever thought about joining the Guard or the service in general? And I said, nothing really never crossed my mind. Thought he was gonna be a star athlete, and I'd laugh at recruiters at school, and then here we are, several years later, and That's kind of what prompted me to join the Guard. My granddad had about 36 years retired as a full colonel in the Oklahoma Guard. So he explained to me, kind of the ins and outs and expectations, and kind of what that looked like, pay for school, and I took the bait, and so I enlisted in '03 in the Guard and started out at headquarters, first 180th. Actually, I take that back. I started out at the detachment in Idabel, and then moved over to when they had the detachment, and then I moved over to headquarters in Durant.
Okay.
So
And then you started off, so that's '03.
yep.
So you graduate, play football, join the Guard, have nothing else, right? The star athlete stuff falls out of
Yeah.
the sky, which again, I joined the Guard and I had a scholarship to play at Alva.
Yep.
And I was going to go out there and play, but chose just to go straight Guard.
Sure.
And again, because like you said, it's a whole different world.
Yeah.
When you
Yeah.
start jumping into it. And so get in and you travel around. How many years total did you do in the 45th? You did everything in the 45th?
Everything. So I got in '03, medically retired in December of 2014. And so started out there at headquarters, moved around a little bit, went to boot camp at Fort Benning, headquarters, then I went to Bravo Company up in Poto. And then, so I deployed with headquarters 06, 07. And we did the Camp Phoenix mission there in Kabul. We're there for about 12, 13 months, something like that. A pretty uneventful deployment, We had one loss of life. We lost Buddy Huey during that tour. It was a Sec 4 mission. We were supporting the Oregon National Guard. And then in between that, I went to work for PTAL, Primo Training Assistance Element, and just trying to travel in the United States and teaching weapons. I was a level 2 combative instructor with the Guard, and so myself and a few other guys would teach some of that, just basic skill stuff. So did that between '07 and 2010, and we kind of started getting getting word that there was possibly a big brigade mission coming up for 11-12, and I was all about it. It's one of those deals where I was real cold on the military. Maybe early on, maybe I didn't know much about it. Didn't know if that was an avenue that I would want to go in my life. But fast forward to then, I was eating it up. Drinking all the Kool-Aid. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the career progression. I enjoyed, the dudes, the camaraderie. That's kind of where it all kind of starts. And you.
Did you go to 07 Iraq deployment?
I went. So I did 06, 07 in Afghanistan, and then we trained up all the Buka folks. That Primo deal at Gruber and all the other places.
Because you're doing PTAL
Right.
then.
Yeah.
Okay.
I've never been to Iraq.
Okay. Yeah. See, I didn't even track that,
Yeah.
dude. That's crazy.
Yeah.
So you did the original Afghanistan 06, 07.
Yep.
Then trained up for our 07, 08 mission to Iraq, and you
Yep.
didn't go on that one.
No.
All right, but you went on the first Afghanistan one. That was in
I didn't go on the first one. That
was
first,
03.
Yeah, there was an 03. The bunch of guys, bunch of the guys in headquarters went, and then some of those guys right when I enlisted in 03, they were doing the Sinai mission as well in Egypt. So
Right.
a bunch of those headquarters guys went and did that too.
See, I forget all that, dude.
Yeah.
Like, again, everybody I get in here, dude, we're like, there's so many different wars you can jump onto with the 45th. They went platoon, and we helped, plus numbers up for the
Oh, yeah.
regular Army or Oregon Guard or whatever it was. And
Yeah.
so, man, see, I didn't even tie that together. And,
Yep.
and so we met, our first time we met was at in Oklahoma City. Or was it RTI?
Yeah, what a great story.
Doing combatives instruction, like
Yeah, so
the course, right?
It's a really unique story, especially for you and I meeting. And so the PTA, they wanted us to go and get certified level 1. So there was a ton of us in that class, like 32 of us. It was a fun class. Sergeant Hanna was the NCOIC of it, and obviously just learning basic stuff.
Was he the short, bald head
Yeah,
guy? All
yeah,
right,
yeah.
I'm tying things together, dude.
Yeah. And fast forward, they do an undergrad deal, and we started that round robin rolling, and you go through 3 or 4 dudes, and I went through 3 or 4 that were a handful. Fairchilds was one, Anderson was another one. I mean, some dudes. I was smoked when it came to the last part. Well, it's you and me. We find ourselves doing the undergrad fight, and so just to familiarize all of you at home, Ty was there separate from everybody else, and there's a buzz around the room that he might have fought competitively a little bit, and I'm just like, well, this is going to be a blast. And the other cool thing about it, we went from the standing, and they said like 60-80% slaps to the face if you want to for submission, and we did. We hooked up, and I remember exactly how it started, like it was yesterday. And you tried to kick me, and they teach the treetop, and I treetopped you and got you on your back. I was like, this guy's not all he's wrapped up to be, I'm fixing to handle business, and that's not how it went. I got the mount on you, and you put me in a straight armbar so fast it make your head spin, and I was tapping about 30 seconds into it.
Yeah.
That was it.
It's funny when you told me that story, dude. It was like, because again, I forget stuff, and then I remember that once you said it, and so it was crazy times, but it goes back to where, again, the brotherhood. It doesn't matter when you run across somebody. And we were bonded forever after that, no matter what, It's like, it doesn't matter. We see each other
to this day.
To this day. Like, again, I seen you in Afghanistan, I think at JBAD.
Yep.
I don't remember where, and it was just like, hug it out. Like, man, good to see you.
Yeah, just like it was yesterday.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so we go back, God, what year was that?
That first time would have been like 08, 09 when we first met.
Okay.
And then JBAD, that would have been our 11, 12.
11, 12.
Yeah.
And so, it's again, that all goes, because I was doing the combatives, and I went to level 2, and then, I was going to fight for the Army, and I was like, I went a whole different path, I was getting old at that point.
Yeah, I think I went to level 2 with Kendall Lynn.
Right?
Yep, Captain Lynn.
Captain
And
Lynn.
he's a handful too.
Yeah. It's fun, dude. Like you said, once they started doing combatives, like we're doing jiu-jitsu and different things, it was, basic training. I'm in 98, right? We're using bugle sticks.
Oh, yeah.
Was our combatives,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
And so, and knives and deflecting. And so when jiu-jitsu came, UFC opened it up in the Gracies. And so it was, we had a lot of fun training then.
Oh, yeah.
We'd have brawls everywhere. Then you could fight for fun.
Oh, yeah.
It was good times. And so fast forward into 2000, what are you doing in your civilian life, right? You're chasing active Army stuff as far as PTAL?
Yeah, so PTAL was state orders. Wasn't Title 10, but so what was it back then? Title 42.
Right.
And just, that guard was paying me. And a lot of times during those train-ups, we'd stay at Gruber, we'd stay at Chaffee, where we were doing stuff. We went to Camp Ripley up in Minnesota. That was a cool trip. Washington State. There were some guys that even went to Hawaii to train up. Basically, what we just trained other guard units.
And so you were making a full time out of the guard.
Yeah.
As far as training and doing all that, even up to 2011.
Yeah, all the way up to it. And kind of got word that this mission was coming up. And I was in Bravo Company. If you remember when the reorg stuff started happening, what prompted me to go to Bravo was headquarters in Durant went Cav. And I went to 19 Delta School, got the 1059, just didn't love it. Once you get a little taste of the infantry stuff, you kind of want to stick with it. And that's what made me go to Bravo. And at the time when I went to Bravo Company, I was living in Clarendon, Texas, so I was driving the full length of the state, the full width of the state, and go drill. And then this mission kind of comes down the pipe, and I put unlimited on my
Promotion,
1100.
whatever it is, yeah.
And got picked up by Alpha Company first to 179. My granddad was a 180th officer, and he always talks trash about the 179. But man, it was a
and rightfully so. We
Sure,
talked about this
sure.
Cartwright. Like it's a gang.
It
dude.
goes both ways.
It's a gang.
Yeah.
So I told Cartwright, I was like, 279 sucks, dude. 179 kicks y'all's ass all the time. He's like, it's funny. We say the same thing.
Yeah.
So that's your grandpa. That yesterday, your uncle Fred. Is it Fred?
So
It's his. Who does the here?
the cabin.
No, here.
Oh, Rod.
Rod.
That's his dad.
So Rod's dad, he told me the story. He got on the podcast yesterday with Blue and Eddie and told me about how his dad would fly into the games.
Different. Oh yeah.
And so
100%.
Yeah. And so that's cool.
On a guard chopper. Yeah.
Yeah. That's pretty rare stuff. And so it's in your blood.
Sure.
And again, so you joined in 03, so after 2001.
Yep.
Did you have the patriotic push?
100%.
And so that was just family or?
From him, my uncle was I call him my uncle. They're cousins, but I've always called him Uncle Bobby, but he was a recruiter up in Tulsa, and we went up there, and I had asthma, and that's an automatic disqual, and we were able to kind of pencil whip it or whatever, and
Right.
thankfully it never bothered me while I was down at Benning going through boot and all that, and that's where it started. So I had two folks in the family. Those are really the only two military folks that we had in the family. It's not a huge military, lineage.
But still some 45th pride.
Sure,
And
sure.
we knew,
Yeah,
you
100%.
knew what that Thunderbird represented.
Yeah, my grandfather would tell you if he was still around, some of the best years of his life. I would take him later in life to Opus Prime up in Edmond, where all those old staff officers would meet, and they would have a big steak and just catch up and just listen to some of the old school stories, as opposed to some of the stuff that you and I would, mingle into. And my grandfather never deployed. That was probably one of his biggest regrets of his service time. But he always spoke very, very highly of me. A lot of pride, very, very proud.
They are.
And some of those other guys were familiar with my background. This is some of the stuff we're going to get into here. General Mancino. So Tommy Mancino is the adjutant now, and so his father. They've obviously got some lineage in their family, and his dad was really, they all knew each other very well, and some of the stories they would tell, that some of the tomfoolery they would partake in at Gruber, all good stuff. And
Well, we talked about the Guard changing from the 90s to when we started getting deployed pretty heavily. The Guard changed.
Tremendously.
I remember because gear, equipment was the big thing. Like, we didn't have money to train half the time, and so we would just kind of do our own training. I remember pulling tanks across the park in Ponca City on strings, just tracking, and then technology comes about.
Oh, yeah.
We get a lot more money. Gruber starts getting a ton of federal funds, and it blew up, right?
Yeah.
The Guard, we changed the whole training pace.
completely.
The tempo was different.
Let's be honest. Battlefield changed. And then I guess the demand. After 9/11, where you have a Guard entity that was not really used to the op tempo we found ourselves in. Guard units were deploying for a year. They started deploying Guard units to these places, and we definitely got our fair share of that, and got to chew on some of that dirt.
Yeah.
But yeah, so with my granddad, he always told this funny story. I got off the bird 06, 07, and he's sitting there talking to General Deering. General Deering's the adjutant at the time, and he used to be one of my granddad's platoon leaders down in Idabel. This is the story as it goes. And my granddad was big on recruiting and retention. And if you didn't make your quota as the commander or whatever of wherever your respective unit is in the state, you would drive to Chickasha, Oklahoma and report to him, tell him why. And it's a running joke now that he always talks about, obviously I have all the respect in the world for General Deering, right? He's my commanding officer. And it was kind of awkward for me because I was a young NCO, listening to them kind of banter back and forth. And I don't know if it was a sore spot or if it was just kind of a funny joke, but General Deering said, "Yeah," he said, your granddad, he put a lot of emphasis on recruiting and retention. I was more into training, on the training side of things." And that's where I wasn't sure if it was like, that was a jab or what it was. And I just kind of stood back, from that. But I think it's just a good running joke for the two of them.
Yeah.
But that's how that all that lineage kind of ties in together.
I'll have to ask Deering. I'm gonna get Deering on there.
Yeah.
Like I'll call him and tell him, like,
Yeah.
let me tell this. Like, here's your side of the story.
That way we can vet it.
We can vet it.
Yeah.
We'll vet it for sure. Yeah, no, those are awesome stories as a kid, the pride of it. Like, again, I didn't have, my grandfather served in Korean War, but, there's always like, Ty, we don't even want to talk about it. It wasn't no big deal. Wasn't in the infantry. But man, it means a lot,
Yep.
still. And proud of the grandpas. We just listened to Riley Green this morning, which grandpas never died, dude.
Yep.
And that's the hardest loss I had was my granddad. And so folding the flag and giving it to my grandma was an honor in the sense. And so I wish grandpas never died, but
100%, man. He was my person for sure.
yeah.
It was, his death was planned. It was kind of inevitable, but it don't change, how much you love them. And
Yeah.
every time I go through Valley in Oklahoma, I stop at the cemetery to say hi. So
That's cool.
I have his Class A's, It's kind of matted, but it has all his ribbons and all his stuff. Is full colonel.
Yeah.
He worked up at OMG for a long time, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's cool, man. And so I want to thank you for watching this show. If you haven't done so already, make sure you like and subscribe and hit that notification button. Now back to the show. So let's jump into a little bit of the deployment, and nothing crazy for the Guard. My 06 or 07, 08 in Iraq, I was really lucky in this. I didn't go to Buka. I actually got to live on a FOB and actually run some missions with some ODA teams, and really lucky, but didn't get to do, near what we got to do in Afghanistan. So we get the mode. We're doing PMTs. We're training up months before we know we're going. You're with Alpha Company,
Yep.
179. And, let's talk a little bit about the MOB, right? So you're with, what platoon are you in with Alpha, and who's your leadership there?
Yeah. So Jason Taylor was captain. Captain Taylor was our commander, and then Wilkinson, Tim Wilkinson was our first sergeant, and then I had Sergeant Byrne as my platoon sergeant. I was in 3rd platoon, Alpha 179. That was my second time. This is wild. Second time to mob out of Shelby. And I was in the same barracks that I was in 06, 07 that I was for 11, 12 mob. The exact same building, which was odd. Yeah, right. And then, having mowed there before, familiar with Hattiesburg, and, when they kick you out and let you go run around town, some good eating joints, a couple little watering holes we'd go frequent, try to keep Joe out of the massage parlors. But, training wise, I thought some of the best stuff we got pre-deployment was, I mean, Polk, we did our JRTC rotation. I feel like we got some stuff there. Now, at sea level, deploying to 10,000 feet, I don't know if we thought that through, but I think it was probably a space available type deal, as far as like training. But I got some good stuff from there. I thought some of the scenarios were, beneficial. It's one of those deals as a line leader, you take everything with a grain of salt, take the good nuggets and whatever, maybe discard the other stuff. We're not going to agree with all the training ops, the training scenarios that they're putting us through, but it was hot, it was sweaty. I mean, we got the country in June. We did a 30-day rotation, JRTC, and it was rough. And then, going into Shelby, and having trained there before, it's still got some good stuff. I always liked, any kind of live fire exercises we would do, stress shoots, stuff like that. And it's also an opportunity to start getting to know your people.
Right. Because we're filling gaps a lot of
Sure.
times, with leadership and kicking people. I was kicking a lot of people out of my platoon.
I was brand new to Alpha, and literally we're cohabitating with Charlie over at 44th and Penn in the city at the time. And I show up, I don't know anybody, and First Sergeant Wilkins took me in his office and he said, "You going on this deal?" And I said, "Absolutely, that's why I'm here." And he said, "Well, I'm gonna let you pick your squad." And so that's pretty awesome. And so we had a PT test that weekend. It was a Muta 5. We were gonna be there for 3 or 4 days.
Right.
And I could kind of assess, started looking at who the thoroughbreds were, and I started picking them. I had Michael Prince. I picked him as my Alpha team leader. Brandon Ruddle was my Bravo team leader at the time. I ended up losing him to Coist. But had a good solid little squad. Jordan Alex, Ray Winkle, Daniel Tevis, Aaron Maxon, Isaac Kibler. I think he just made E7. So
That's fun to see
yeah,
sometimes.
yeah. Wow, you see some of those youngsters progressing, and very proud as well. But just to like piggyback on the Shelby, the pre-mob stuff, trying to get them in some shape, put the plate carriers on, go for a run. Prince hated running.
I made all my guys quit smoking.
Yeah.
Like I would flip out. I'm like, dude, listen, we're in the mountains. We don't know what we're gonna get into. Like, go to chew. And I hated cigarette smoke too.
Oh, yeah.
So I was a asshole
Yeah.
when it came to smoking. Because again, we know we're going into the shit. We know we are, right? I'm trimming fat. I'm like, guys, listen. It was funny is I was the first time I've been back to Camp Shelby. I did my PLDC at Camp Shelby in like 2000, right? And so then you go back to it, and it like never
That's
changes,
wild.
does it?
No.
It's like nuts. Like seeing Polk now, you see those old pictures.
Oh.
It's crazy.
I had an event take place where me and one other guy were coming on post. We were out and about, and we had some gals drop us off at the front gate. It was pretty late, and we're coming through there, and it was just kind of like jokingly. There was no negative like confrontation with the gals at the gate per se. What I think happened was the gals got crossways with the actual gate guards. We were oblivious. Me and this kid, we're walking down the road because we were going to walk back on post, and we're, pretty litty titty, and all of a sudden these red and blues are coming up. It's Shelby Police, and they roll right up on us, and I'm like, what in the hell is going on? And
nobody likes seeing it in peace.
No. So JD's like, I don't know. So they spin around, they pull up right behind us, throw the spotlight on us. I'm like, what's up? And this little sawed-off fella comes straight up to me, and he's about a head shorter than me. And he's looking up, and he starts in my chest. And actually, it's not what happened. He gets me by my throat. And then he comes back, backs me up, and he said, you don't come down here and talk to our women that way. And I'm like, sir, I have no idea what you're talking about. I said, maybe the gals up there got crossways with it, but we did not. And when he started handling me that way, obviously I wanted to handle business. Yeah, and couldn't. And so, kept my composure. And JD, it was like, what the heck's going on? Well, they load us up and take us to the company CP, and I'm like, well, here we go.
You're the commander out here.
Yeah, and at the time it was Harrison, and I had First Sergeant Maxwell at the time, Sergeant Major Maxwell. And I told Sergeant Major what happened. I mean, that was one of his young NCOs. I said, hey, this was the first MOB, actually. I told him what that dude did, and you talk about a man that went to bat for his soldier. He walked straight over to that cop. He said, you ever put hands on one of my soldiers again? He said, you got other stuff to worry about,
I like Maxwell. He was sawed off too.
Yeah.
He would come at you.
Oh, 100%. Absolute dog.
Yeah.
And, he went to bat for us because we didn't done it. We'd done nothing wrong. They weren't allowed on post, so we were just going to walk back to the barracks. We were on liberty, so they didn't. We weren't like sneaking around or nothing.
Right.
But that was always a funny story, getting manhandled by the Camp Shelby's finest.
It's crazy. Again, it's funny because, again, if you don't have one of those stories, we wreck. A guy's driving and wrecks the car on the way back. And the last mission to graduate PLDC was make it back by curfew. So we had to catch a ride, and we're walking in, and we called the drill sergeant, like, you got to come pick us up at the gate. Well, it wasn't a drill sergeant, but whatever, tag.
Right.
The tag team or whatever. And he come picks us up, and he's like, what in the hell are y'all doing? But it's everybody's got something going
100%.
Crazy, right?
Somebody goes to jail, whatever.
Yeah. No, it's good, man. That's what those stories are. They're priceless, man. And you'll just keep remembering them over and over. It depends who you're with at the time. Yeah. And it's like, oh my God, I remember that now.
Oh, yeah, all day.
But so we're going up, we mob, right? We mob at Camp Shelby, Mississippi. We go in. You are Alpha 179. You're stationed in Najil.
Yeah, we're at Cop Najil.
Or Cop Najil.
Yeah.
Right. And so just to kind of lay the groundwork for everybody, Meterlom here, Najil, Kalagoosh, right? And so we own the whole battle space. And you guys had 3 of your platoons in Najil because Wolf and Lehan's platoon was in Meterlom.
We had a second and third up there with enablers, so we had 3 or 4 at least 3 JTACs. Coy's team, and then first platoon with Wolf and Lehan, they went. They were operating out of Meterlom down there. So we got to where we cohabitated a little bit on some missions,
right? Some
con ops, with those guys. They would come up to, if we needed to be plussed up, they'd come up there and support anything we had going on.
What was Cop Najil like? I went up there a few times. It's bee hut living and burning your shit.
Yeah. So, I remember my first time flying in. It's all through Black Hawk. They also had that Canadian Air, that would pick you up from like Meterlom, whatever, take you different places. Been on a few of those. But I remember showing up there. It is primitive. At the time, we're showing up in June, so it's hot. We're probably at about 6,000-7,000 feet, something like that, as far as like elevation. Not too crazy. I mean, there's guys that have been 10,000-15,000. Some cops over there. But at the time, we didn't have any running water, so it was all palletized water. bathed with your bottled water and stuff like that. Baby wipes were your friend. Hot commodity for sure. And then we had some Navy Seabees come on, and they developed a water system for us. And I think they were pulling the water from the river, and then they just iodine it, and that's what we showered with. Had the shower trailer, I mean, it had everything that you needed. Probably 80 of us there total with all the enablers. We had 2 mechanics, 3 mechanics work on your stuff periodically. We typically, Byrne really liked to run the RG-31s as far as up armored vehicles, because they had a narrow body, in that V hull. If you did hit something, Max Pro's a little wider.
Right.
But amenities wise, we had a little movie shack in our living quarters where we'd play video games. At that time, it was Call of Duty was of course hot. We did have an internet shack. We didn't have any wireless, so you'd go get on. There's usually 4 or 6 computers I think you could go get on.
Yeah.
And then we had an ASG, Afghan security guard, like civilian guards that would also help with security around there, which is always a little not real sure about those cats and what they do.
Right.
But then so front gate, Concertina Wire. I mean, it's a small spot.
Yeah.
That was home for 8 months.
Yeah, it was definitely a dot. When we'd go up there, we always stayed on the LZ, and I'd go see everybody at the B huts and walk around. And it was, because it was nice to get out and see everybody.
Sure.
But it was definitely, of all the cops, Alpha Company was there, Charlie Company's in Calagoosh. Calagoosh was a little more established.
Oh,
it was
yeah.
a lot nicer.
I went over there with Duff.
Yeah, Calagoosh is really nice. You guys probably had the worst
I
cop.
had ice cream.
Yeah.
Calagoosh.
Right. But I was in Meadowlawn, dude. So
Yeah.
I was a spoiled little baby,
yeah,
dude.
yeah.
I was a baby, right? I was a prima donna and stuff.
Yeah.
But you guys roll in, so we roll in, and it's hot. Corn's high, right? So again, we roll straight into high corn, great cover for them, and they're just hitting us from every. You don't even know where they're at.
All the time.
They're just opening up, shooting. So you roll straight in, and it's going to be a hot zone.
Game on.
Game on, right off the bat. And so again, if you guys haven't seen Citizen Soldier, that is Cotton and Jill Alpha Company. Sergeant Harrell was he in 2nd platoon or 3rd platoon?
Yeah, he was with Coley.
He's a 2nd platoon guy, and so that is you guys is basically documentary. Obviously, we encapsulate the whole guard in there, but a lot of the stuff is based from there. And so, had a Death Star. You guys had a sniper at one point.
Dishka Dan.
Dishka Dan. That was it.
Yeah.
And so it was, Dishka Dan. Did y'all ever get him?
No. So obviously carrying around the Dishka, and the outgoing unit was the Red Bulls, the Minnesota Guard. Told us everything about him, where a lot of his TRPs, where they try to put mortars on him. Dude was pretty elusive, and if he's lugging around a Dishka, he's a stud. But he would throw rounds, from afar into the cop. We had one pretty good scare. We had red air, and he shot 3 rounds. We found splash. Tried to do like a splinter analysis on it to see what direction maybe it came from. We would try to hang some mortars on him or whatever. But one of them went through the B hut wall, and one of the Joes had shrapnel on his neck and his pillow. So definitely a close call there. And the air was red, so we had to develop a con op to run somebody down the road to Meadowlawn. But yeah, so that's one of the elusive guys. I think.
Every time I come, that was a
Yeah.
safety brief. Like, hey guys, Dishka Dan's around. Don't be just jacking around in the open. You
Name
had
tape deflate.
yeah, right. And so, going back into, jumping in one of the big missions that we talk about, and I don't even remember, was it Brass Monkey when we went into the SEGAL? Do you remember the name of that mission?
Yeah, that was the second one. The first one was male.
Okay. And so, in the SEGAL, and you see in the film that talks about you guys were sitting there, right? So I'm at the blocking position waiting on you guys, right? And we get ambushed 2 days before you guys fly in.
Right.
And I hear in the movie you guys, or in the documentary, you guys are talking about it's next, we're on, it's next, we're on, it's next, we're on. And so talk me through your understanding at that point, because we're on the ground waiting on you guys, and it never was called off. But talk to me about a little bit. Would you guys stood down for that mission like it was next, and go through that scenario a little bit?
To my knowledge, my platoon leader, Tyler Brown, he came to us to be obviously E6's leadership, and he's like, mission's on. We weren't too thrilled about it, for one, because we didn't have a lot of planning time. This was some foreign territory. It was rugged. We looking at the maps. You know, I would have loved to have had 3 days, a couple of days. But it was, you know, one of those deals when, you know, when it comes down the pipe, you just figure it the hell out, you know, and that's kind of what we did. So to answer your question, I feel like it was scrubbed at one point. You guys are down there the whole time. You obviously didn't get word of that.
Right.
Maybe there was something going on above our heads. And so we stood down. We had the rucksacks. Everybody's ready to go. Combat loads, night vision, all that. The intent. We were doing our rock drills for the bird. 2 Chinooks, 37 bodies with enablers. So we had 4 female engagement team members. Had a couple of JTACs, a Raymond Vile, and Dirk. And then us, we were the DO, we were the decisive operation, and we were going to do it's a valley clearing mission from the top down. First objective, little stuff that you do remember, was Objective Baker. That was the first one we were going to go to. So, stood down, you're back on, stood down, and then he comes up there and he's like, you know, that's when Brown's like, it's back on. So, you know, me and Smitty kind of look at each other, it was kind of like, let's get them ready, you know. Everybody had their seat assignments. You know, we just go down to the pad and get ready to go. So we're gonna go under the cover of darkness, full moon. So I don't know if anybody really thought that through, but again, you just adapt and continue on.
Yeah.
Chinooks aren't very elusive either, so it's whoop, 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 you know, when you're getting ready to land. And we found what we thought was the best LZ. We had some Pathfinders in our group. Smitty was a Pathfinder, him and Halvey. And that's where we decided to set up shop. So they do a touchdown, and they're gone. It's about midnight, 12:30 if I remember correctly. And then we're gonna set up an alpha and put everybody in pairs. I had 50-50 security up until about 4 o'clock that morning. So everybody just scanning. You know, we had our fellow with us that we could hear the ICOM traffic, the Taliban traffic, so they were already chattering as soon as they heard the bird. And then, you know, as the morning got closer, the chatter got greater, and they started saying, you know, we hope our young fighters fight well today. So it's inevitable. Obviously, something's going to pop off. And I'll be honest with you, that we were at a point then, after having done a valley clear mission, been in a few ticks. You know, my youngsters, they kind of liked it. You know. Chomping at the bit. I don't think some other folks in our group really liked it too much, you know, but my job as a leader, for one, is, you know, make sure I'm staying organized, make sure being safe, but when it comes time to get after it, that we're ready to do that. Weapons accessible, you know, everybody knows where your lanes are at, and also know what assets that I had at the time. I know as the DO, we had air on station, you know as well as I do. Taliban will kind of hide their heads, especially at nighttime.
Air's the savior, dude.
Yeah, when we got air on station. We typically run with the OH-54 Kiowas. We'll have some 16s. Every once in a while we get AWT, we get the Apaches, but a lot of stuff with the OH-54 Kiowas, a ton of it. Those things are agile. They got some pretty decent little payloads, and they're kind of fun to watch. But so that was the asset that we had at the time. And 4 o'clock, go to 100% stand to in the alpha and start kind of devising a plan, how we're going to get to Baker. Mind you, so you have 5 classes of terrain, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 being a vertical danger area, and we were on 3.5, 4 all day long. It was pretty rugged.
Goat trail.
Yeah. And so sun starts coming up. I'll be honest with you, I thought they'd probe us, you know, as the sun was coming up, at least, you know, throw a couple shots in there, see how we would react. Never happened. So me, Brown, and Smitty kind of devising a plan. Like at some point we're gonna have to kick out. So let's figure out what that looks like and what direction we're gonna go. And so we kick Smitty and Halvey out. They go try to find the path of least resistance, and there weren't very many. But we found it was almost like an escalator of rocks to like get down into the riverbed. And then when we get up to the other side, it's a goat trail. It's traversing back and forth, and straight line distance, maybe 500 yards. But it took us an hour and a half to get over there.
The terrain's brutal.
Oh, 100%. I mean, and
very deceiving.
Yeah. You know, and just to back up, I mean, before we even started doing missions, I think we took 45 days to acclimate because nobody had their mountain legs, you know. Once you get those, you're in some of the best shape of your life, you know.
No doubt.
One thing I'll mention, before we kicked out that morning, we had about a 12, 13-year-old boy that walks right up into our alfalfa, full garb, got the little hat on. I told Prince, I asked him to go down there and said, hey, go run down there and just see what's going on. Have him pull his stuff tight, see if he's got anything on him. If he's got a phone, take it. When we get into talking about stuff like this, for one, I'm not talking about a ton, but kind of maybe I should have done that a little bit differently. Tied him to a tree or something. I don't know. He's definitely getting our numbers. I really feel like he was. He told me he was going to get lunch at this village called Farandali that was just down the road, and it was a hot minute away. But you and I both know they can get there quick. Again, I really feel like he was getting those numbers.
Yeah, he's scouting.
Yeah, because we're loaded to the brim.
Knowing what you know now,
Yeah,
he was scouting.
yeah. And so, pass him off, and then we get together and we start movement, and we get down to the river on the other side. Everybody, the ones that really couldn't stay up were sucking hind tit. And so it's my job also, intervals, 10, 15 foot apart, people bunching up, and I'm trying to maintain a little bit of noise discipline. Not that it matters. They know exactly where the hell we're at. We're in their backyard. The goat trail had tiers of corn on it, so they're farming that area. And we make the turn on the goat trail and start traversing up towards Objective Baker. And mind you, we're glassing this place, and you can see. So we kind of thought that some of the dudes were dressing up as gals, and that's how they were moving ammunition around prior to us showing up. And that may be true, that may not be true. They were definitely loaded to the brim. And then we start to traverse up the other side of the mountain, and I called a short halt, had everybody get them a swig of water, and then we start. I'm trying to remember who's up front. I think Brown's up front. I'm in the middle, and then I want to say Smitty's bringing up the rear. That may be wrong. I know I'm in the middle. As we get into this, I'll kind of expound on that. But so we start up the hill, man, and we're 45 minutes into the walk, and all hell breaks loose. And I remember, like, boom, boom, and the one that hit in the back, we hit right in the middle of my squad. And I'm standing, I got Prince by me. We're 10, 15 foot away from each other. I don't know for sure if it hit him or if it hit the embankment and took him over the edge. We both got blown over the cliff face. I remember getting hung up in this cedar tree, and I couldn't even access my weapon. And there's branches breaking around me, like it's, I thought that was my meal. It was done deal. I was like, I'm gonna die. Obviously, chaos has ensued. Loss of consciousness was there. The adrenaline was second to none. Didn't feel shot or feel, wounded or anything like that. So then, really and truly, the switch just kind of flipped on. It's time to try to start going to work and assessing casualties. Because it was so loud and so, I had no idea that Prince went over with me. I didn't know that he went over the edge as well. I was out, completely out. And so McKean was one of our interstate transfers, one of my riflemen. I think he's one of my grenadiers. He comes running across down the goat trail, and I hollered at him, Ben. I think his name is Ben. I said, pull me up. So he pulls me up, and I get up there, and I'm seeing everybody. Hibbler's got shrapnel. Vile, JTAC's got shrapnel. My machine gunner, Aaron Maxon's biceps cut in half. But you and I both know you got to eliminate the threat first, right? So we're putting down suppressive fire, belt fed. They shot at us, straight line distance, probably 300, maybe 200. I don't know. The RPGs are not the most accurate ever, and for them to have maybe had a direct impact on Prince, I don't know. I don't know that. But it was direct enough where it messed a bunch of people up, and we caught a couple of them. I think they ended up shooting 4 or 5 of them. And so we eliminate the threat. We end up dropping 3 JDAMs, danger close JDAMs, 2,000 pounders. that was intense. I never had one quite that close. You could definitely feel that percussion in your chest. But that helped the tick go to a lull, and give me an opportunity to assess casualties, all of us to assess casualties. And so I ran up the hill where Brown was at, and we start setting up CCP. And total out of the 37, we had 15 that were jacked up. Again, we're on class 4 terrain, so it's jungle penetrator for each casualty. So you literally had 15 birds rotating, not 15 birds, but 15 trips, where they're getting casualties out of there on a hot X. So getting a head count, running people up the mountain, it kind of shows it in the movie documentary. And I realized I'm missing one, and realized it was Prince, and then Jordan, Alex, and we decided to run back down the hill, and we're doing 5s and 25s, trying to find him. And he was quite a ways away from where the impact was at, and it was, like I said, it was straight downhill. And so he finds him, and we checks vitals, all that stuff, and he was deceased. I don't think there was any suffering or anything like that. That's sitting here talking about it, that's a very critical moment, because you're trying to balance emotion, and you're trying to balance being a soldier and making sure we're still being proactive to get the hell out of here. And that's my buddy, and just give me a second.
You can take your time.
So obviously realizing that, he's deceased, and I needed some other bodies to come help load him up. We got a Skedco down there and just kind of got his gear off and destroyed it with thermite. Kept sensitive stuff, and carried him up out of there. And it was an ass kicker. In the meantime, we've got the Blackhawks coming in, rotating out, taking casualties, and get him up there, and we get a whoopee and kind of double layer it, for him. And it looked like it was whatever it was an impact, on his side, and toughest day of my life, 100%, hands down. You and I've talked about it the last few days. Big tough guys sometimes don't like talking about their stuff, but over time, it's important to do so. I haven't got to run through it like this in a hot minute, but it was to change my life, forever. And I mean, he's my alpha team leader. They say they always take the good ones, and truer words have never been spoken. And like I said, the whole time I'm trying to, I don't want to show my guys any emotion. I'm trying to stay locked in. And there's another part of the movie where I'm getting ready to put him on a bird. That's the last time I'm going to see him. I'm not going to get to make it to the funeral. That's it. I got my hand on him, and just like until we see each other again.
That's tough too.
Yeah.
It's a crazy part that you don't really think about, like when they roll off the fob and you don't see him, but you loaded him up on the gurney, bird takes him, and you'll never see your team leader again.
And I still got to get off the mountain,
Yeah, and you're still there.
So.
Well, let's take a quick break. I want to thank you for watching this show. If you haven't done so already, make sure you like and subscribe and hit that notification button. Now back to the show. So Prince gets hit, he's KIA right there. You guys have 15 casualties. Push him out. You still got to get out of the valley, right? And so let's talk a little bit about. So you have your platoon sergeant, Sergeant Byrne. Martin Byrne is supposed to be Overwatch. So he's in a place. You can see it in the documentary. He's over here, and you guys are over here on the mountain. He can't see you guys or anything
at all.
So your Overwatch is ineffective.
Not overwatching, yeah,
right.
Yeah, and no discredit to them. I mean, there's just it was a spot, and you and I both know what that terrain's like.
Yeah,
So,
so I want to talk about your Joes, right? So this happens, and guys, we have he keeps saying Schmitty. So Justin Smith, Sergeant, the other squad leader that he keeps saying Schmitty's here, and we're going to talk to him as well. But one of the best parts of the movie was when Schmitty's got a Joe and he's talking to him. And I want to jump into that a little bit because you got to hold your stuff together for your guys.
Yep.
So talk to me a little bit about the difficulty of your soldiers. Do you remember anything that you said to them once Prince is done? You guys are light in numbers now.
Yep.
And you still got to get, you haven't even made it to Baker yet.
No.
You still got to get out of the valley.
Yep.
And so let's talk a little bit about your soldiers there and what was said to them, or how that leadership, right? Talk me through that a little bit, what you had to do and what your Joes were feeling at that time.
Well, I'll say this, and I can say this with clear conscience. Between Justin Smith and Tyler Brown, couldn't have been up there with a couple more badasses. Considering the casualties and triaging, and it couldn't have been more fluid for the situation, what had just occurred. And Brown's on the hook with Colonel Harsha, trying to figure out what the plan is. Us being on Class 4 terrain, there wasn't even you couldn't do a medevac. That wasn't happening. So it's completely shoot the medevac down. And when they shoot the medevac down, I don't know all the adjoining factors that go along with it. But me as the guy on the mountain, I'm like, it's fucking bullshit. And I'm pissed. And at this point, yeah, there's some rage, starting to sit in there because obviously I know there's some bad guys up there, and I'm confident that the JDAMs killed a few of them. But there's still some more, they're still up here, and, tactically, what's the plan? So we sit there and talk. I was like, the only way to get out is the same way we came. We know where it goes. And so let's see what that looks like. So I'm literally, with the Joes, and we have 2 of the female engagement team members, and we also have 2 combat cameras.
I forgot about the combat cameras there.
Yeah, Movavi was one of them, and I forget her name, but Movavi could walk with me anytime. I mean, that girl was a freaking machine.
Yeah.
And I basically told them, so here's the deal, and they can tell I'm mad because we're not getting a medevac. I said, we're gonna walk out of here same way we came in. Get all your shit on, and make sure you got a little bit of water in you. It had already been a pretty intense walk for that 45 minutes of that terrain, and you're full battle rattle with a ruck and you're 210, So I said, stay locked in. If we get shot at, call out distance direction. Situational awareness first and foremost, always. But if they hit us, we're gonna give them hell. We're gonna get after it. We're getting out of here. Period. And I led the front, the entire deal. The single file line, 10, 15 foot spread out. Fight or flight is definitely a part of that equation, alongside of we're going black on water, and we get down to the bottom, and we started finding like some remnants of some body parts, like going down the goat trail down in the riverbed. And I'm about halfway through the riverbed, and just happened to glance over myself, Carlson, maybe one other. We see an arm laying over there in the riverbed, and walked over to it, if my memory served me right, and it was Prince's. You could tell it had his Garmin on the wrist, and had his wedding band on it. It was probably from right here down. Our job, we're supposed to collect. You're supposed to send as much back with the body as possible. Obviously, we couldn't do that, and so I literally made the command decision. I was like, get your tools out, and we put it down in the riverbed and buried it. Put a huge river rock on top of it. I took his wedding band off of it, put in my mag pouch, and we left. Time is of the essence. If they're going to probe us or they're going to try to get after us again, they're definitely going to. We had QRF trying to get to us, which was Sergeant Zook and like 13 other guys. And we go down the riverbed and we're going up this hill. We probably got straight line distance to the road, about 300-400 meters, climbing that. And so we go up there and do that, and everybody's sucking, bro, to include myself. There's a picture of me climbing up over onto the road, and my blouse is ripped to 1,000 pieces. Everybody's black on water. We start sticking people with the saline locks. And seeing Zook and those guys was probably one of the most beautiful things I've ever seen in my life. Those guys were fresh, and we had some support, got air back on station, ironically enough. And then from there, we got guys that got blisters, having a hard time walking. We had to carry a few people to get to the cell tower, which is where we were going to set up shop for that night.
Yeah.
And
yeah, that was the goal.
Yeah.
Because again, we're on the ground and we're like, you guys get here, we can get you out.
Yeah.
And so Skylar Matthews is part of one of Zook's guys, and he's in an earlier episode, and he talks about that and the terrain and just how bad it was. And so, I know it means a lot when you have somebody come in and those brothers. You see another 45th patch walking to you.
It was a big deal.
It's huge. And Wolf talks about this after Lehan dies, and he walks into the gate, and I'm the first one that he sees. And dude, it's a bond. Like that first eye contact after losing somebody is something it's special. It really is. And so that's, and I want to talk a little bit about, being a leader on the side of the mountain, losing one of your guys, a good guy. And so I want to take this chance to honor Prince. Tell me about Michael Prince and his family.
So he was a police officer in Minco, Oklahoma. He lived in Ninnekah, out around Chickasha. K-9 officer. When I first met him, what I liked about Prince in choosing my squad, the dude was proficient in every single weapon system you could possibly imagine. He was teaching the 50 cal classes. He was teaching them the 240. Was very important to me. And so I knew he would be great for the young guys to show them the ways, and he was a professional. He was not your in-your-face top NCO. He was very laid back, but conducted business, per usual. His soldiers that he had underneath him, they just clicked. They were laid back too, but not complacent. Everything always got done. All the boxes were always checked. His Copenhagen guy, always have a big dip of Copenhagen in his mouth and Dr. Peppers, and he hated to run. I didn't love it, but I knew it was necessary for what we were doing. And we PT'd up there. We'd walk up to the Death Star and back a few times, kick your ass every time. And he detested that. He probably detested me for that. But so 2 daughters, I think at the time they were 2 and 4, and Michaela and Raylyn, and of course his lovely wife Serena. Just a tight-knit family from rural America.
Yeah.
Country is cornbread.
And that's who your heart hurts for, you know. And I know I talked about this on some of the speeches when Lehan passed. I cried for Lehan in country, and I never cried for him again. I literally was crying for his widow and his kids, right? They don't have a father. Because again, we're different, right? We're made to die. I really feel that way. And the family, man, it's tough.
Yeah.
My hat's off to them, the Gold Star families. We don't give them enough love. You can't give them enough love.
No, and I've watched from afar, Serena struggle with this, that, and the other. The system's not foolproof, insurance stuff, making sure they're taken care of. And she's navigated that to the best of her ability, and as have the girls. We try to be as supportive as you can be.
What can you do, right?
You just want to love on them, And 2 and 4, the girls are super young. Lehan had an infant son, never know his dad, and that is a tough part about it. I do believe. I mean, I would tell myself, if I'm going to go, this is the way I'd like to go. Than doing this for my country. what better way to go, right? And firmly believe that. And I also think that was a way that I would kind of justify what I was doing over there,
Yeah.
kind of mind fuck myself,
Deal with it.
and just like handle business. That way I could focus on my Joes, you know. Because the details do matter in that deal. Where we were at Cotton and Jill, you could literally get to a certain phase line, and it was going to be Cowboys and Indians. But back to Serena and the girls and him, you can tell those two were absolute lovebirds. It hit her really hard, as it would any spouse. When I came home, I was in Jalalabad for 2 weeks after that event in the hospital there with Jordan Alex, and they sent me home on leave October 1st, which was my birthday. I was there from the 1st to like the 15th. And so Maxon was sent home for good. He went through Landstuhl, Germany, and Hibbler was sent home for good. So lost several squad members at that point from that day. And we all decided to go up there to Oklahoma City and meet with her and just kind of talk her through stuff. And if she had any questions that she wanted to ask, I could tell her exactly how.
Try and give her some closure.
Sure. And so we brought a shadow box up there and talked about it. And his wedding band was in there, and she's like, "Well, why was this not with the body?" And I had to talk her through that, and explain, well, it was actually, when we packaged him up and put him in Skedco, it was not with him. It blew his arm off. That's intense for a spouse to hear. But I didn't know what the guard was going to tell her, or whatever. This is your ride or die, And I was drawn to pull that wedding band off for whatever reason, and at that specific place and time, the best thing for me to do was to bury it. And I didn't want to carry it on my pack. I didn't have any room in my pack, and I did not want my guys to see it or my gals to see it.
I don't think you made a bad decision on that.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it bothers you or not, but that the whole, you're leaving a part of your buddy behind.
100%.
But the symbolism of leaving him in that mountain too is you could twist it either way.
Yeah.
But that's a pretty special moment though. Get in the ring and then having to share it with, that's deep.
Yeah.
And so I want to transition into now what we're dealing with when we start talking about coming home, dealing with the anger, dealing with all this, because I know you deal with it. And so let's transition over to that after. Let me check this. I want to thank you for watching this show. If you haven't done so already, make sure you like and subscribe and hit that notification button. Now back to the show. So you can't be angry on the mountainside, right? You're mad, right? When did you actually start dealing with it? And let's transition here and go to, how do you deal with the loss of your soldier? Well, and a little bit of your struggles. Again, let's tear some off. Let's be vulnerable here, Colt, and talk me through some of your struggles.
So, for me, I think we transitioned home. They put me in the WTU down at Fort St. Houston, going through therapy, doing some recovery stuff down there. I was in the hospital for about 9 months. When I say I was in the hospital, it was pretty chill. I mean, they kind of had us in some kind of like little mini apartments, there. And I think for the most part early on, I just didn't want to think about it, didn't think about it. We drank about it, and I don't know who thought it was wise to let a bunch of infantry guys loose in San Antonio, Texas, but, drinking more than we should. They're prescribing medication down there, of course. We just came back from an environment like that, so, any kind of high-risk behavior is pretty common practice, it's just what we did. Now, transition from there to home, that's when the problem started for me.
Because you have children.
Sure, yeah.
Right? You have 2 boys.
Yeah, 2 boys and a daughter. Yeah, so 19, 16, and 13 now. Then, obviously younger. But I would say that's where the self-medicating, started for me. The VA was prescribing, I think, Lortab for my back, Klonopin as needed for anxiety, Ambien to sleep. You got this cocktail, this array of different medications that I'm taking. And at the time, I was just take them and, you know, frequent the local watering hole. You know, I had a little spot that I like to go. And with that, not only am I self-medicating with the alcohol, you know, I'm driving. And, you know, that's there again, some of that high-risk behavior, very toxic behavior. At the time, I would like to say that I had a mentality where, you know, if we're out and about and you even look at me kind of crazy, I mean, I was all about it, you know. And again, some more of that toxic behavior. At the time, I didn't care. I didn't care what people thought about me. I didn't care what I was doing, and I did it, you know, unconsciously for a hot minute. And then with that comes some legal troubles. You know, accumulate a couple of DUIs, and at that time, this is probably where I start seeing, you know, for one, what I'm doing to myself, and also seeing what I could do to somebody else if I were to be in an accident or something like that. You know, it's very selfish behavior too, with the drinking and driving. And so with the DUIs, I'd got one in Grayson County. Passed out at a stoplight after a date that was terrible, and was definitely drinking heavily. A couple of officers from Sherman, Texas, were on the night shift, 2 or 3 in the morning, and you know, I've got some onlookers. I've watched the video in the past, and I think I had my Bronze Star Purple Heart plate, so they knew they were dealing with a vet. So they knock on the window with a flashlight and open the door, and we're off to jail. And so that prompted me. At the time, that officer had been killed by a drunk driver, so the DA was not putting up with none of that nonsense, and he was going to throw the book at me, you know. Aside from the fact that I hunt and fish, you know, and I'm looking at a felony, not having my guns, right? And that bothered me, and it's all stems from the same common denominator. And it's the alcohol, and you know, medication and stuff that we're being prescribed. But I'm the one taking it, right? I become just a master of self-medicating and masking what the true problem really was. And at the time, Grayson County did not have a veterans court or a diversion court set up for veterans. But during all of this stuff, it was 100% a God thing, in my opinion. These Vietnam veterans come to the DA and they said, "Hey, we would like to set this thing up and kind of mimic the same model that Judge John Roach Jr. Has in McKinney, Texas, and it's North Texas Regional Veterans Court." And so I was the first one to start the Grayson County Veterans Court, and I was the first one to graduate it. And it's a 2-year program where you're doing therapy, you're doing EMDR, you're doing CBT, CPT, you're doing prolonged exposure. You know, that's where I start really digging into the meat and taters of what's really going on inside my brain housing group, right? It's an uncomfortable process on purpose. You know, you're supposed to be uncomfortable. Otherwise, you're going to keep that stuff on the shelf and never address it. You know, and then everybody else is going to pay with your anger issues and your, you know, whatever else. I was blessed to have gone through a PTSD inpatient cohort with the VA in Bonham, Texas, and that's where I met Alicia Wright. She was my therapist. There was 13 or 14 of us in this class, and she had experience with combat arms guys in Afghanistan, which I loved. You know, we would have some open forum discussions in our classes about, you know, some of your combat experiences, and there were some people, when I start talking about mine, they'd either have to leave the room or get a little choked up, you know, whatever, and they're like, "How does this guy talk about it? You know, I was like, that was our life," you know what I mean? They weren't trigger pullers per se, you know. And so Alicia, she said, "Let's just avoid your open forum discussions in the groups, and we'll save that for me and you." And that's when I got to start digging into it, man, and really peeling back the onion. We did these ABC worksheets to address my stuck point, and my stuck point was, what could I have done differently that day? and Prince still be here. And you know, you hear people talk about survivor's guilt. You hear people talk about moral injury. I'm educating myself on all this stuff, right? And it's helping. And you know, during that 2-year program, I'm obviously sober because no drinking, and sober time is always good for me. And I can assure you, anybody else that's out there struggling with that, I can express the same sentiments. You have to, you know, call it pull up your bootstraps, bite the cud, whatever. But as long as if you'll start the process, it's worth it. And with that, that's dealing with your trauma. And even if there's some childhood trauma that you've not dealt with, do it all. So I guarantee you, it's all working hand in hand. It's all affecting you the same.
Absolutely.
And you know, so my therapy started with Alicia, and she's truly an angel. I mean, I really feel like, you know, you talk about. They always ask you when you first get to the VA, do you have any suicidal ideations? Yeah, all of them. You know, been in some of the darkest places. You know, I mean, you get really emotional thinking about what those places were like and some of the thoughts that are going through your head, because it is hard to deal with, and our brains are not geared or made up to deal with some of those things. And if we open ourselves up to some of these enablers that are there to help us, it's everything, and it's saved lives, and again, it's worth it. Just start the process. You know, I've heard all the horror stories about the VA. I'll be honest with you, Ty, I get sick of hearing about how bad the VA is. You know, there's a lot of good in the VA, and I've had a good experience personally. They've not all been rainbows and butterflies. Right. But if you truly want some help, whether that's one-on-one therapy or whatever, and they're evolving to this day, it's there for you.
Yeah, the treatment through the VA is really good. Getting in becomes a little bit of a problem,
Sure.
but yeah, once we get in the system, it's been really good. I agree with you on that. And again, we've had a lot different leadership in these past years, and we understand a lot more about the TBIs and some of the post-traumatic stress that a lot of us are dealing with in that sense, and the technology, the brain waving and neuroplasticity, and it's really evolving. And the VA, I like to say, we're trying to get away from, the pills.
Yeah.
I need medication that's not in a bottle, and you went through it. And so the military court, so that when you was convicted for the DUIs, that's a 2-year program, and they pushed you through all of that counseling. Was it done through the VA or was it done privately?
So it was private practice. Really unique. He had relationships with.
And this is in Texas, right?
Yeah, Collin County,
okay.
McKinney, Texas, and once that Grayson County court started, so Judge Roach supervised Collin County, Grayson County, Fannin County, Kaufman County, and Rockwall County. So he had 5 counties he was over. And the way that they tied in with the VA was they had a VA liaison on the staff that would coordinate all of that stuff. So when he would capture or take in, process a justice-involved veteran, guys and gals alike, they got a treatment plan. And your treatment plan was, and I'm telling you right now, this guy, I think of Judge Roach as a father figure. And he don't mess around. And he don't mess around for a reason, because he wants you to want good for yourself. And he's gonna hold you accountable. And if you mess up, you're gonna go do it 2 or 3 days, sit in jail or whatever. I watched it 100 times. Fortunately enough for me, I believed him in his words. And I just went straight through. It was 2 years long. And my treatment plan would look like, therapy was at least once a week. It would taper off, as you progressed and got through things. Once I was in the court, the staff really kept a close eye on what medications folks were taking and were being prescribed. It's a treatment court, so they weren't allowed to maybe take some of the things that they were taking before, right? So what are the alternatives? Well, there are a lot of alternatives, as you come to find out. And that's, I was doing yoga, meditating. Never tried any of this stuff, my entire life.
I know a guy who goes hangs with the monks.
Yeah.
He does meditation.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
Big tough infantry guys, but we don't do stuff like that. Well, you do. You need to, and be open to it with an open mind, and I started seeing benefits from it, and I'm a man of faith, and I can definitely attribute really all of my success and progress with it, because you get critical of yourself, and it's not easy to do, talking about things that make you uncomfortable. But Lord and Savior Jesus Christ is it, and I talk to him multiple times a day, and help me navigate a lot of that, and to this day, I'm telling you, if you have gone through some trauma, it doesn't ever leave you. It doesn't ever end. And I totally promote maintenance, at that point. When you start sucking a little bit and you're like, something's maybe pulling you back in a bad direction, it's time to go talk to somebody.
Yeah, when that toxicity hits, and we talked about this last night, when it's good, it's good. Like, we think we're fine, so we're like, oh, we don't need that. We wean off therapy or medication or whatever we're doing. Like, we don't really need it. And then that toxicity hits, whether it's a relationship, whether it's losing somebody, whether it's somebody disrespecting you at the wrong time of day, it all flares up, right? And so the PMCS of the brain, the maintenance part is very important. And so now you've went through hell, right? So you lost, your boy's mom,
Yep.
right? So now you're not just dealing with your trauma, you're trying to help a son through this trauma as well. And you can take some of that, and you learned, and I'm sure you did some of this with your son, and it helped you through that. Talk a little bit about your children and how some of your trauma that you went through, and how did you help your kids. And I know you said a few things to me earlier that was pretty important to me with me talking to my son. And you're obviously through the program way deeper than I have been. And I'm constantly, again, we all think we're all right to a certain extent, but I'm trying to talk to my son about that a little bit. And if you don't mind, dude, talk a little bit about what you've learned. And you said some things of how you treated your son with the loss of his mother, and talk me through a little bit of that, because I really think what you said was important.
So just to kind of loop everybody in, so I have 3 kids, 19, 16, 13, 3 different mothers. And Ethan lost his mother to suicide in 2023. And being familiar with that space, and we've lost buddies to that same thing that plagues the military community and civilian community alike. And it hit different than it did if one of our buddies were to do that. It's my firstborn's mother, and once I got word of that, I kind of went into shock. But I knew exactly how to go about it. That's trauma, and so I took the boy over to my mom's house. We talked. I wanted to be close to loved ones. I knew I wanted to be close to loved ones, and then deliver that information to my son. And probably some of the hardest information I've ever had to deliver to anybody. He was tight with his mom. She was very involved with him all the time. Select basketball, you name it. She was married at the time also, and they got a little girl. So immediately, I know exactly what to do. We're going to get into therapy. There's no question about it. And I have a husband and wife that I go to in Sherman, Texas, Blue Line Counseling. He's 35-year retired police officer. She was in the Navy, I think. They have a dog named Bullet that sits in there with you, which is incredible. It was a nice little perk when it comes to the therapy. And Ethan had never been into therapy before, but because I've been through years of it, I'm able to talk him through that, and say, hey, it will benefit you to talk about whatever they ask, questions that they're going to ask you. And I talked to the clinician and kind of let them know the backstory. And it was beneficial. We probably did about 3 months of that initially, like weekly, and then just kind of tapered it off at that point. Then it was maintenance after that.
When you say maintenance, again, so maintenance in the sense of you doing home therapy,
Yep.
and speaking therapy. And so therapy is the big one that you start talking about, just getting raw emotion
100%.
out.
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
The CBT
and once you do that, once you engage, that's your tool belt, right? I'm not a subject matter expert, but I know what works. You know what I mean? Whether you want to hear it or not. I've had buddies that have had their struggles, and it's the same common denominator: drugs, alcohol, rage, whatever. And you got to figure out a way to reel that shit in. And is incumbent upon you to do so because you got other people relying on you. That's my kids. That's my life. That's my life's greatest accomplishment right there. And so this happens with Ethan's mother, and not too long after that, I got a letter in the mail from the VA that said, we regret to hear of the passing of your child's mother, or whatever. And it was my daughter's mom on the VA deal, and I was like, that's got to be a misprint. It's got to be Jennifer. And literally months after Jennifer passed, Alicia's mom passed away. So two of their mothers are deceased. She came down with cancer, and it went quick. It's hard to even fathom to even think about that, you know. And there again, you know, the importance. I mean, you got to engage your kids, talk to them, you know, about what's going on, and people, places, and things. And it all starts with dialogue. And we all love our children, and when there's, you know, some trauma and stuff like that involved with them, it's our responsibility to make sure that they're okay. And what's cool about mine is I talk to my son so much about it. He checks on dad, you know, check-ins, you know, accountability. You know, it's love, you know, because you love one another and you want to make sure each other's good. And so.
Well, I appreciate you, dude, opening up, being vulnerable. And definitely, we'll do part 2 of this at the cabin, dude. Yeah. And let's wrap it up here, dude. And I love it. I really appreciate it, man.
Heck yeah.
And so,
love you, buddy.
Yeah, dude. Before we close, I want to say thank you to Colt for having the courage to sit down and tell his story. Our original plan was to film a second conversation with Colt at the cabin and really dive deeper into the trauma, healing, and the lessons that came after war. Unfortunately, we weren't able to make that happen this time. Colt felt like there was more to say, and I believe there is too. But I also believe that this story deserves to be told. Colt has carried burdens that very few people can truly understand, from losing a fellow soldier on the mountainside in Afghanistan, to living with the memories that never completely go away, to fighting through alcohol, hardship, and rebuilding his life for his children. Through it all, he kept getting back up. One thing that really stayed with me was the way Colt talks to and interacts with his children. His patience, his honesty, and the way he's learned to communicate after everything he's been through challenged me personally. I walked away from this interview a better man. So thank you, Colt, for trusting Oklahoma Echoes with your story. And I truly hope we get the opportunity to sit down again, because I know there are more lessons to share and more hope to offer those who may still be searching for their own light at the end of the tunnel. Until next time, thank you for watching Oklahoma Echoes.